Carl Clemons-Hopkins stars in the second season of Hacks on HBO Max. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Carl, such a pleasure to talk with you today. I wanted to start with where we left off at the end of last season, where Marcus gets everything that they wanted professionally, but at a really high personal cost. So I was just wondering, in hindsight, do you think Marcus would have done anything differently? And can you just describe where Marcus is at the beginning of season 2?
Yeah. I don't think Marcus would have done anything differently because I don't think Marcus knew to do anything differently. And we find him at the top of season 2 in his first breakup, in his first heartbreak. He had never dared that much before. And to have it not work out as he intended is playing a bit of a number on him because he's not someone who deals with emotions. He's not someone that has friends or outside of his mom and his aunt. He doesn't really have interactions with his own personal communities outside of Damien, his assistant, and Ava, who he just now stopped trying to get fired. He doesn't really have access to other queer people. So we find him in isolation. We find him someone who's frequently isolated and now for the first time heartbroken. And shenanigans ensue.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those shenanigans. Season two finds Deborah on the road and on tour, which kind of leaves Marcus with a lot of independence in Vegas. So last season, when Deborah was away for the weekend, Marcus had a lot of fun.
Sure.
This season, with more time away from Deborah, do you think he's a bit lost without her? How do you think Marcus kind of handles that increased independence?
I don't think he's lost without her. I think he's lost without the connection he had with Wilson. And I think that he is, he's in Vegas alone with free time, means, and emotional damage. That's not necessarily a recipe for actual fun, but I think he's definitely, trying to pretend and portend that everything's fine.
Yeah, we do get at least one really incredible episode where Marcus is struggling. So no spoilers. I won't describe what happens, but it lets you do so much as an actor and really explore different facets of the character. So just wanted to ask you, how rewarding and how challenging is that to dive into that kind of material?
It's very challenging and therefore rewarding because I feel like challenge is its own reward as long as you don't die. And I didn't die, which is good. It was very. I was very humbled and grateful for the opportunity to explore sides of the character going through those types of situations. It's not, I was already overwhelmed by the fact that I got to play a character who you see in the main setup and then you go home and meet his mom. So that's fun. I'm so glad those ladies are back as well. But to, dive into kind of the psyche of his makeup and the way that he handles situations, it was interesting because I could feel myself, reading the script and then seeing me on the periphery going, no, don't do that. Go down this other way. But it was also on a personal thing. It was interesting when you're dealing with someone confronting their own shit. You kind of have to make sure that yours is at a good place, so there's not spillage or frustration and all that stuff. So that was fun. It was a fun return to therapy. It was a fun return to journaling. But yeah, I'm grateful for it, and I hope that people who can relate to it find it and that it's helpful.
Yeah, it's wonderful work. So when season 2 drops, everybody will really look forward to seeing that work. You mentioned Marcus's mother and aunt in the show, who are always so fun to see, and they are back this season. Can you just talk about working with them, because the scenes feel so loose and organic, and they're obviously such a joy to watch?
Yeah, well, it's what I know. What I know is that they are the source of his only outlet. as far as he'll let them be. I also know that that's his family. And so you can do versions of yourself at work, you can do versions of yourself on dates, you can do it or whatever, but the people who know you. And what's so wonderful about working with those two, Angela Gibbs and Lunel, is that we have such a great rapport and shorthand. And I have such a respect for the two of them and all that they've been doing. I mean, I first saw Angela on Good Times, but we have so much fun, and I think it shows. And it's those are some of my favorite days when I get to work with them, because it's just a hoot. It really is.
Yeah, it really translates on screen so well.
Thank God.
Speaking of working with incredible actresses, I want to ask you about working with Jean Smart, because one of the things I love about the series is your relationship with Deborah, Marcus's relationship with Deborah, because you know, even when they're kind of disagreeing or not seeing eye to eye, there is always a kind of baseline of trust between the two characters.
Yeah.
So can you talk about, you know, off screen, your rapport with Jean and kind of bringing that dynamic now that you're back working together? You've been together for, you know, over a year now with these characters. How do you kind of translate that rapport into the dynamic of the characters on screen?
Sure. I think you hit the nail on the head on trust. You know, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm so grateful to have her as, you know, kind of the leader. Her leadership is compassionate and humorous and heartfelt, and I have so much trust in her as an actor. And I think the way it translates is that, you know, the Deborah Vance empire, you know, Deborah Vance Incorporated, really was built out of trust between those two people. And so they, even when Marcus is, you know, messing up, you can't ruin what's already been, you know, plentifully, that's not a word, is it? I don't know. What had always been, you know, abundantly secured. So yeah, it's that trust, it's that support, and it's also just initially it was funny. I'm like, oh, am I getting intimidated? Am I getting anxious? Whatever. And then we'd start working, and it's like, oh, no, just be there with her, and it's great. You can trust this person. This person has been doing this for quite some time and doing it very, very well. So it's always helpful when you have a very good actor to work with, because you can just do your thing and go to work and not worry about it. And it doesn't have its, you know, challenges and risks and whatnot, but that's all part of it anyway. But I'm really grateful for it. It's been great.
Yeah, similar question on working with Hannah Einbinder, because one of the interesting dynamics this season is after the events of season one, which you alluded to earlier, Marcus seems to open up a bit to Ava as season two progresses. So what do you think is, you know, why do you think Marcus starts to open up to Ava? Are they kind of kindred spirits in a way? And talk about working with Hannah.
Yeah, I think, I know that, well, Marcus being who he is from last season, top of season and on, is he's definitely about the work. He's about getting the work done. And the tour and basically the post Palmetto residency life of Deborah Vance is priority. Something else that, and I think there was drafts where this was explored, but now it's just something that's known, is they both are now sadly in the Dead Dad Club. And I'm sure there was a catch up on the events that happened on the road involving the ashes and whatnot. And so I think there's a mutual respect there. And also, you know, what other things might be against, you know, whatever conflict they may still have can be settled in court, because that's also a very real part of the season.
I wanted to ask you, speaking of the kind of arc of the season, I don't know where the crew shot some of these locations, if you were actually on the road. Okay,
we everywhere. Not always in the locations in which they'd say we were, but
right.
all over the place.
Do you have a favorite location that you shot in season 2, since the whole kind of arc of this season is leaving Las Vegas and being on the road? Was there a favorite stop for you on your many travels?
So I don't know if this is necessarily a favorite stop, but one of my favorite memories, and we shot it in LA actually. It was this club scene in episode 4. And the reason it's my favorite is because it looks like, first of all, we shot that at 7 in the morning. We're all having like donuts, coffee, breakfast stuff. Some people are in blankets or whatever, kind of just 7 a.m.ing it about, but in full like Pride Party attire. And so we're setting things up and we're like having coffee and talking and waking up, whatever. And they start the thump track and we're like pretending, oh, it's 2 a.m. and we're on things and having all this fun and cut and just slogging back. But I would say surrounded by gays at 7 in the morning, pretending that we're partying was my favorite location.
Sounds
favorite.
incredibly fun.
Yeah.
And before I let you go, Carl, I just want to ask you about your Emmy nomination for the first season. A belated congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to know, do you remember that moment that they read your name as an Emmy nominee? And also, could you reflect on, what the nomination means to you now that, we're months and months kind of removed from, the hype of the season? What is that recognition? What do you remember from that, and why is that meaningful?
Well, the first part of your question, I do not have a memory of when they read my name as a nominee because I was asleep. It was told to me after I woke up, and I saw my phone was out of control, and that was that. So that was my memory, waking up to more notifications that I thought my phone could have. And what it means to me, it was not something that I ever considered would be for me. And so I never really put that much weight into it. However, I do recognize what it means for visibility and for the fact that someone else who might share my adjectives will no longer think that that's something that's excluded from them because of who they are. So for that, I'm really humbled and honored.
Carl Clemons-Hopkins, congratulations on the second season of Hacks, and thanks so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thank you. Have a good one.